Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 30th.
Hi, let's talk about what's on our agenda today. For people who are new, let me post the agenda link in the chat. We have feel free to add action items on the agenda anything that you want to talk about. Today, likely we'll have a pretty short meeting. And Wilson, or I think Wilson, his name is starts with a B. I can't remember
Wilson
it.
Ian B. Wilson
Brendan.
Wilsonian.
Wilson's real name is Brendan.
That's
Um,
right.
Brendan put up a PR. Unfortunately, I checked in with him. He cannot make it for this meeting, but he said that he will he will the PR is ready, but the he thinks that we need to add more tests, and he added what additional test needs to be done. When I asked him if he's the one going to be doing the test, he said to be determined. So he doesn't know quite yet. And so I think either that we take a look at this PR and try it ourselves to see if it fixes any test. If if the test work is too much, maybe like he should be the person handling it. What do you think, Zane?
I think so. I'm open to setting up the office hour on Friday with him, but I'll have to get in touch with him if he
Okay.
needs help with it. If it's, yeah. So we can get that going.
Cool. Awesome. Amazing. I don't know if MJS Chalk is here. I did send him a DM and or not DM. I posted an agent protocol asking him to join. I don't think he did. But um but his PR is just a one line change. That's interesting.
Which is actually
And
a
I
change that we had made in the past too, because we had been trying to make sure that this was more Python focused instead of JavaScript focused, I think was the thing. So here in this testing suite, so he's got task ID. I'll have to take a closer look at that, but I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to be an underscore no matter what platform you're using.
I
But
see.
technically, if it works, that's what matters more. So
Yeah.
we'll have to take a closer look at that. It's too bad he's not here.
I'm writing down that you're double check to see that it works for both Python and JS.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And lastly, Kai's proposal for agent API schema. And I know Kai was talking about, by the way, Kai, do you want to do a quick intro before we talk about your items? That would be great. Like, what are your use case for agent protocol is, and who you are and what you're working on, etc.
Sure. Yeah, one second. Do a video intro. Everybody. So I'm also sick. I actually have COVID. I'm isolating in a hotel right now. I'm just a few days. I've been here for a few days. I've got a couple more to go, um, and then I'm gonna go isolate at a family member's house. But yeah, all good. Getting a little better every day. Um, yeah. Introduction to myself. I um, I'm getting more involved in the AI space and exploring um, solutions to problems for problems of friends of mine, problems that I'm running into. I'm both in the AI space as a building a product, and I'm also doing some consulting work in AI. Um, and Yeah, so I have some friends that I have businesses, and I've had conversations around like what's missing for these businesses, and it's kind of led me down this path for to what's missing to really get AIs to be super productive beyond what they're capable of today. And yeah, so I've came to this conclusion that uh, the world needs to be ready to sell goods and services to autonomous agents. And we don't have what we need to get there. And my current thesis is that we need standards to accomplish that. And the main reason we need standards beyond authentication are just that humans are legal entities and we need to handle agents as if they're operating on behalf of legal entities. And so, yeah, so like what's missing with APIs today is if they were to want to sell goods and services to people through chatbots, but through their own API, but a chatbot reaches out to them, for example, there's no standard way to say both, okay, here's how I'm going to authenticate this agent as it communicates with me. Here's how I'm going to know which human it's working on behalf of. And here's the status of the legal legal agreements that we have with those humans on behalf of this agent, and what affordances they get based on those legal agreements, and also confirmation. So what does the human literally consent to? That's like tracked, and so these are all kind of like legal concepts that are missing in protocol in my mind. And so that's what's different to me, Sasha, your question around like the difference between a standard like HTTP and how I'm envisioning this is really just standardizing a few legal concepts and pairing that with an authentication standard. Yeah. So really the goal here, you know, in imagining scenarios to kind of pitch this further, someone tells their chatbot to go build an entire like Airbnb-like product. Well, it can build a lot of code autonomously, but it can't do things like sign up and hook into new APIs autonomously. And so if we want to see autonomous agents build like an Airbnb product with one prompt, it will literally need a way to handle reaching out to these APIs, like signing up for a new database or services to help build up the thing that the autonomous agent is trying to build. So early in thinking this through, definitely welcome feedback. But I'll just start the conversation there, and if this is something we want to go into in more detail separately from this call, this is just an introductory pitch for where my head's at. So thank you for taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kai, and nice to meet you and have you be a part of the community. For people who just joined, Kai in the Agent Protocol channel proposed a new type of protocol, which is called Agent API Schema. And it's currently some of his raw thoughts. So if for people who are curious, please go to the Agent Protocol channel to check it out. And to Kai, in the past when we've done this, we typically would love to see a RFC, a written out documentation on how you imagine what the protocol would look like, and that really would help me be understanding this on a more concrete basis. The reason I did a little bit of pushback on that was I think just like from my perspective, like different APIs do very vastly different things. And so there are that's why I was like REST protocol is like HTTP protocol, right? Like is the most kind of like common way of communicating to other like API layers because they need different parameters, and it's hard to standardize when all different services need different parameters. So that my question is coming from that perspective of like what is the benefit for standardizing a schema beyond like a tighter standardization beyond HTTP or REST. So that was like where I'm coming from.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can formalize this a little bit better, my thinking and my pitch. So yeah, I'll follow up with that.
Yeah, great. Sounds great. And do you know like how to submit RFC? Perhaps someone can paste the link for the RFC process. We have it on our doc, how to set up RFC.
Yeah, please,
So
someone link me to that.
take a look.
Yeah, and as I still pretty early on this, and if anyone's interested in brainstorming further with me, please let me know. Especially if I'm putting more concrete thoughts down. Um, Democratizing the thinking here would be helpful if anyone's already thinking that this is something that they want to think about further with me. Let me know.
Absolutely. So I posted the template for the RFC on there. So whenever we post an RFC, it's really just a pull request on the GitHub based on this template that I linked. And so with this, if you're interested in making that RFC, I'd be happy to take a look at it. Once it becomes a draft PR or something like that, we can keep going. Me and Nick are working on a couple of RFCs as well. So
Yep.
Perfect.
Speaking of, we'll be doing that today.
yeah,
But
we'll be working on that after this meeting.
Yeah. Sasha, do we have time for questions about this, or should we move on?
Oh yeah, you have time to question about this.
Okay. So my understanding of what you want to propose is a way for the user to or a way for the agent to consent on behalf of the user. Is that correct?
More kind of flipping it around, a way for the API to set set explicitly some requirements around consent, and in a relay mechanism, if required, for the human to provide consent for one or more actions.
Okay. So I'm going to give some raw thoughts for that, right? And I don't want this to be discouraging. The first of which is, if I was building an agent, I would want to agree to these automatically, based on the concept that agents are responsible for actions taken. Or I'm sorry, not agents. Like the agent runner is responsible for the actions taken on their behalf by the agent. So if the agent agrees to it, that's fine, right? But as somebody building an agent, adding in a layer of like friction, I guess, seems just tedious, right? So I would want to make sure we can address that with this. And then a generalized agent should be able to interact with pretty much any API as is without changes. That's a premise I have. Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but that's just some raw thoughts. I would love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughts. Yeah, I think I can either respond to that now, or I can promise to take note of those questions and try to address them in my the GitHub pull request.
Yeah, I think the pull request would be a great place so that everybody can read it. And like I said, not necessarily
great questions,
but just something
thank you.
worth considering. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Maybe just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sasha.
Oh, I was gonna quickly say, introduce Nick a little bit since you're new. Nick is one of the core engineer on the AutoGPT team. So just so you know. Yeah.
Well, great to meet everyone.
You were gonna say something? Sorry to interrupt you, Kai.
Oh, I just thought maybe it would be worth just mentioning my initial thought to Nick's comment around consent with agents and humans. which is my first thought is that while some things are okay for an agent to consent, we live in a world where business require the consent of a legal entity, and that just comes down to basically coming back to the human who's executed the agent. And this will come down. Yeah, and there's I think it seems like it might turn into like this thing where the chatbot keeps coming to us with like legal terms and agreements. I think that it's not so bad in that there'll be a nice user experience to say, okay, yes, keep going. I agree to this, keep going. And I think the real world is going to require that humans take legal ownership of whatever these agents are doing. So the real world will continue to require that humans say, I am taking responsibility for what this agent is doing. That's my initial thought to that. To the first question.
Yeah, there's already. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a time delay. There usually is with me. I think there's a legal precedent for that already occurring. Actions taken by an agent on behalf of somebody else, somebody else in that case is responsible. The actions taken by the agent, if they are a logical decision that can be made, right? Like if that's a foreseeable outcome. For example, if I tell an agent to buy a house and then it buys a house that's too expensive, I'm still legally responsible for that, right? That's just based off existing law. Not necessarily with AI agents, but like agents as a concept have existed for forever, right? You can think of it as a consultant as a form of agent. So worth considering.
Yeah, I guess if a consultant were to come to you and advertise their services to you, and you paid for their services to help you find a house, and then you found a house but it was too expensive, but you still purchased it, then it is still on you, not on the agent at that point. Even if the agent, or I guess in this case the consultant, could have, I guess, swindled you or whatever, like, would it be their fault or your fault in that scenario? What's the actual legal repercussions of? Definitely interesting. It depends on the country.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Juan.
Yeah, API businesses probably aren't going to have an incentive to serve agents until they can pin the legal ramifications on the agent's actions on a human.
Right. Or at least push it a little bit off of them.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great dialogue. I look forward to having more of it. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, it sounds like rather than like a generic like agent API spec, since we're kind of constraining the domain to like the legal aspect, getting consent, it felt more of like the consent model for an API. I wonder if it helps to like narrow it down to what that looked like when you write the RFC, or do you think that it's actually like in a bigger scope?
Well, I think the only pairing here is potentially that APIs that are built in this future way that I'm imagining will also need a way to authenticate the agents that are operating on behalf of the humans. So, I'm imagining that like APIs, they were to adopt a new protocol, they'll create a new route for an AI agent to do things like sign up or sign in or execute some kind of product action on the API. They will have like a token that is authenticating them and allows the API to associate that agent with a real human. So there's a little bit of a technical structure here to treat the agent in a specific way and authenticate it in a specific way, but only has to be within a 1 to 2 different main ways that this would possibly be done, either OAuth or API keys.
So it sounds like this is an agent consumable API and an agent consumable consent API. Is that fair? Because I think agent API is maybe a little of a confusing term in this context.
I like that terminology. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah,
And then the other,
I like the
flip, Yeah, the flip side of this is that the um, the agent protocol as it is now may need to have a new heuristic for handling things like credentials, and I'm not sure if Artifact is sufficient for that right now. I still need to think through this more, and I welcome more thought about this if we keep going down this path. Uh, but my hunch here is that we do need to, if this were all to work, to come together, the agent protocol will need to adapt to handle credentials and potentially even also this idea of consent.
Yeah, I've thought about that before of having basically a secret is what I would have called it as part of the
Yeah.
API. But I think that'll come down the line a little bit further when we have direct need for them. Because right now, like AutoGPT doesn't have a compelling need for them, so we haven't really pushed that. But I could definitely see that being useful.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thanks again for the dialogue and kind of getting the initial questions there so I can process them and make this a little bit more productive when I submit the PR. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Kai, we're just gently like pushing back and to get you to think in a certain way, and it's definitely like not trying to discourage you or anything. It's more meant for you to be more informed when you're writing the RFC. And thank you for proposing this, and we would definitely love to see a more concrete version in how you think about it.
Great. Thank you all.
Cool. So I don't really have anything else on the agenda anymore. Do we have any updates from Flo on the marketing side that you want to share?
Yeah, we have like a shortened version of the Legos video from last week that I think we can post on YouTube Shorts now because the limit there was 60 seconds. But there's like two potential short videos for Twitter, and the AIEF marketing channel has like a ton of content. So yeah, just have stuff to post. Just need to like review it.
Great, awesome. I'll get on that. On the Legos, I actually met up with Cyrus over the weekend. And I've communicated with him that we think that the Legos framework is a little bit too early right now, given that there is no other contributor from any other company other than him onto the project. So we're going to keep a tight monitoring to see if the project is being used by other companies for it to join AI Engineer Foundation. So that's kind of like the verdict that we want, at least usage from one other company for it to be eligible. So that's the verdict.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 'cause, that was actually something in the process of like watching it. I was actually wondering that like what is the I guess like the process for deciding what gets approved and what doesn't. I actually that's a I guess maybe a good thing to bring up. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. But yeah, I didn't know like the whole like how does that work? You know what I mean? Because I created some marketing material around it, but it hadn't been approved yet. So yeah.
Great. I will post in the general channel perhaps later to show you guys a document that I wrote, which is the guide to submitting projects, the guide to submit projects to AI Engineer Foundation. It highlights the different requirements for needs to be met before we allow projects to join us. Like it also highlights the mission and the goals and vision that we want to have for the foundation, and requirements, etc. The one of the most important thing is multi-company interest, having usage by companies. So in this case, agent protocol is being used by various many companies here. By having, because it's a neutral body, the fact that it's owned by multiple company allows it to evolve neutrally, as opposed to being affected by the feature sets required by one particular company. So that's kind of the motivation. And so, by the way, I will share this document in the general chat. We are currently looking for new projects. So if people, on Twitter or any social media, or like just offhandedly seeing cool new AI tooling and infrastructure projects that you think that would fit to general ethos of AI Engineer Foundation, which is open source, neutral body, nonprofit, please forward the document that I will share in the general chat. It highlights this to get projects onboarded onto us. So yeah. Zane, were you gonna say something? Okay, great. That's it from me. Any other things that you wanna talk about? Anybody?
I had an idea, but it's kind of spur of the moment. I haven't written down anywhere of maybe doing a little competition for some logos for merch and things like that. Like if anybody's interested in submitting any artwork that would be used in T-shirts or mugs or hats or thongs or onesies for babies. All the different things. Feel free to send them out into the AIEF marketing channel. Open to anything, just about, but not. Yeah, I think it'd be fun. But besides that,
And yeah, I saw that Yikes is here. You want to share about the outcome of the GPT store, open source GPT store hackathon?
Let's see. Well, yeah, we've got um we ended up with I think a total of like 11 submissions, which is not too bad. At least I think we had like 60, 70 participants. So obviously with online ones, you get a few people that like fall through, but I think I'm not unhappy with the turnout. We had a couple of cool submissions. Plenty worked on like an auto blue team, red team kind of thing for your GPTs to see if your prompt will leak or not. And then, yeah, we sort of jury rigged a temporary open source GPT store for the event itself, which took a little bit, deployed that, I think, middle of the event or so. Not a lot of usage there, but the the team that's working on the more I guess bespoke version, like our actual version that we were working on, is still working on that. And kind of looking to finalize that a bit more, but we just grabbed something in the spirit of open source. We ran around on GitHub until we found someone who already did it, and then just deployed theirs real quick because we needed one. Yeah, so we're kind of doing finalist selection-ish, or basically like we had a little judging round, and I'm trying to run around to all the sponsors and shoot them kind of our thoughts and see who they want to allocate prizes to. And we're thinking about doing a kind of like closing ceremony. Here's the winners. Come show up to show your thing or whatever. And I think we're shooting for like Thursday afternoon for that. And then, I'm gonna get with Adam a little later in the week and see kind of what our game plan is for a follow-up. I know I saw Z mentioning the reverse hackathon over here, and I've actually talked with a couple of people about that before. I think that might be pretty fun. So I might see if I can try to make that happen.
yeah, for context, I mentioned it would be fun to have a hackathon that would be the biggest loser type hackathon. Not like the show, but like create the worst product, create the most useless, novel, unique AI that you could think of. That's what he's talking about, just for context. But please continue.
Yeah. The general idea was like a hackathon, but like make stuff that's intentionally dumb. And yeah, this which it's a great. The reason I talked with vendors about it before is because it's a very it's a great opportunity for vendors that don't get a particular vector tested very often to get some of those unusual use cases kind of more thoroughly tested. So yeah, I'll probably get a couple of people that probably circle back with about wanting to be involved with that. But yeah, I think my other kind of thing, or like where my head's at lately, is I kind of want to get something together that's a good resource for people who are like considering open sourcing their project but aren't sure how to do it, or how to like how to keep a business profitable or existing, or a product like functional in a business case type sense if they open source their stuff. It's like I hang up for a lot of people, so I kind of want to like, one of my sort of things I'm keeping in mind this week is like, okay, can I get a GitHub repo together that's just like fork this and you have everything you need to open source your thing, a bunch of resources and maybe some code or utilities or whatever and all that stuff. But yeah, otherwise just keeping an eye out for like, I don't know, cool stuff to pair up with other cool stuff, basically.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Cool. That should conclude our meeting. Yeah, let's post it in the Agent Protocol channel. If you have Agent Protocol related topics, feel free to DM me for anything you need. That's it. I'm gonna stop the recording.